It's time for Real Talk with Brian and Dan, the weekly talk radio show dedicated to discussing important real estate topics, plus insight into the local community. With a combined experience of over 50 years as local real estate brokers from the East Side Real Estate Team at Keller Williams Realty Bellevue. Here's your hosts, Brian Levitt and Dan Edwards.
All right. Happy first week of summer, Brian.
Yeah, just waiting for summer to show up.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Real Talk with Brian and Dan on 1150 KKNW. It is Wednesday, June 26th, a very special day in my life. I married the love of my life about 19 years ago today.
Nice.
Woo, woo. Okay, so back to the show. If you'd like to listen to this podcast anytime outside this time, feel free to download them anywhere podcasts are found. Another great show. I'm excited, Brian, to talk to our two guests. Doug Schwed, attorney with Access Law Group, and then we have Danny Leggett and Amanda Peterson with WFG Title and Escrow. So it should be fun, but of course, before we get to those guests, it's time for some Real Talk.
All righty. So, Dan, we're going to talk about dream homes.
Yeah.
Hey, Gen X, it's time to buy your dream home.
Yes, it is.
Dan, what do you know about that during the housing market crash? I know Gen Xers, homeowners lost more wealth than other generations. However, things are changing now. Strong economy, increasing home prices, and the recovery of the housing market are helping this generation to regain their lost wealth. What have you seen?
Well, according to Pew Research Center, I like to say that, their fortunes have actually rebounded more than those of other generations during a post-recession economic expansion. And the home and stock prices have risen. Since 2010, the median net worth of Gen X households has risen 115%. In fact, in 2016, the most recent year with available data, the net worth of a typical Gen X household has surpassed what it was in 2007. So it was $63,000. It's up to $84,000. Pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So according to the 2019 Home Buyers and Sellers Generational Trends Report by the National Association of Realtors, in 2018, Gen Xers made the largest share of home buyers market at 24%.
Wow.
Greatest share that purchased a multi-generational home at 16%. The largest share that purchased a detached single-family home, 88%. The highest median household income, $111,100, and bought the most expensive homes of all generations. Job-related relocation was identified as the primary reason to buy.
So I don't know if you know this, Brian, but I'm a Gen Xer.
Oh, you're kidding.
No kidding. Now, I didn't buy a home
Go
in
Gen
2018.
Xers.
Yeah,
Man,
but
look at those numbers.
Yeah, when you do look at that, it's like, holy cow. I mean, 88% bought a single-family detached home, and that highest median household income. Now, that's across the United States.
Right.
Well, I mean, since we invented the internet, I always tell my kids, you're welcome, you're welcome for inventing the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it was people way before us, but I just like to claim it like
so
Al Gore did.
One of my friends posted, what did people do before the internet? Like, what did our parents do? And the friend said, I don't know. I'll ask my 23 siblings. So,
That's awesome.
So I'm curious, what trends are you seeing with the Gen Xers you're working with?
Well, it's not just buying, right?
Yeah.
They're also selling. So, the whole intro to this conversation was check out the largest generation in wealth growth. Well, they're selling their homes. 25% of them sold.
Uh-huh.
The highest median household income was $123,000. The tenure, that's interesting, is how long they stayed in their previous home is 9 years.
Yeah.
And I believe before that, the previous generations was 7.
Yeah, it's less. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long, you've been in your home a while. How long for you?
17 years.
There you go. See,
That's
that
crazy.
ups those numbers, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm definitely not average.
Yeah.
Below
No.
average, maybe. I don't know.
Slightly above average.
Slightly above average. So one thing that's interesting is the reason that many Gen Xers are now choosing to sell, and the number one primary reason to sell was the house was too small. So it's funny, if you look at that typical cycle of, between 4 and 7 years that existed before that bust. Well, if you go 2006, that's 12 years, right? And we were right at the very bottom of kind of the recession was 2012. That's when it bounced back up,
right?
Started coming back around. So then you add another 6 years to that. That's where you get like that longer median time in that previous property. Here's the one key statistic that's interesting is 91% of Gen Xers selling a home used a real estate professional.
You know, interesting, something that's been a real change for me in helping find the dream home is how Gen Xers are looking for a home. Of course, the internet's a big one, but it used to be most of the time people would say, well, we want to be in this neighborhood, this location. And now what I'm seeing is we want to be 25 minutes from work, 45 minutes from work, and we're using the internet to choose areas based on drive times. We have tools to do that. I don't know if you've used InRex, the tool we have. Love it. But I had a family recently, Gen X, that they wanted to be 45 minutes from work during the maximum commute time, not taking into account, events like if there's an accident or something, but normal commute time, bought a house in Federal Way to commute to Seattle, less than 45.
Yeah, they understood that basically they could find what they were looking for by using a tool, that technology, right? That could help them find what's important to them. And that's one of the things about Gen X is family for them is pretty solid, pretty important, and being able to have that valuable time spent and minimize the time in the car. Of course, I think it's a given that you're going to have to commute, and unless your budget is unlimited, you still have to kind of.
And they were willing to go, a longer commute time to get more house, and they got a lot more house.
Right.
And just really, dream home.
It's a dream home. And what's interesting about that, using a piece of software to predict it, is it's not what you think. Like, it's not a circle, right? You don't draw a circle. It's a polygon. You have these spots that have longer angles that you have to get to, and some, like for example, if you were to go east, from Bellevue. You would think that it'd be, a shorter commute time to get to parts of Sammamish, but actually you could go to Snoqualmie quicker than you can get to parts of Sammamish because of the traffic on the arterial routes off the freeway. So along the lines of dream homes, one of the things that I've seen lately is some folks are willing to stay in their house longer, but buy a second home instead. Destination purchases, right? So Lake Chelan, that's an example. Cle Elum is another example. Finding something over in Moses Lake, or even a little more exotic, say Hawaii. I talked to some folks who were like saying, hey, we'd love to have a place that we could stay there, but use either Airbnb or Home Away to monetize that property. Who have you helped out in that regard?
I've had several clients buying a second home. And also sometimes helping a family member. This is typically not a Gen X move, but helping a family member buy, so acquiring that way. And one of the things I think about is the resources that we have in helping connect these buyers with really excellent brokers. One of the things that we can do with our Keller Williams system is vet a broker who really is like-minded, who's diligent, who will do a great job in buyer representation.
Yeah, one of the first pieces of technology that Keller Williams got busy on about 2 years ago was their referral system. And essentially what it is Keller Williams is one of the only worldwide actually, organizations that tracks every bit of business right down to every new agent that comes in the door. So there are other companies that, they'll track their local business or they're a franchise of a bigger brand name. But Keller Williams, if you work for a Keller Williams office, that office every first of the month has to send their numbers to the mothership, that data. That's part of the franchise agreement. So because of that, I can look at, say, Kissimmee, Florida, I had a friend who his mother was getting ready to sell. And I went out on this app, and I actually was able to narrow down the exact neighborhood and then find agents with production in that neighborhood. And then I could call them and say, hey, tell me about how you do business. Because what I found, I want to know it's cutting, it's creating a warm introduction to somebody who is an expert in that area rather than just picking somebody that shows up on Google. And I got to tell you, it's been fantastic. We've been able to hand a lot of business, a lot of our trusted clients, not only there, but also help somebody like, say, buy in another marketplace with in-depth knowledge without them having to just guess who they're working with.
And a work style, someone that's not going to pressure, who's going to really educate, inform, and guide. And it's also, for us, nice to be on the receiving end of that as well. So we really love those referrals when we get them.
And honestly, I predict that I'll probably get my license in multiple states and be able to kind of serve clients with our experience at a higher level, because that way you stay in our ecosystem, you get the same quality that you would get here on the east side in, say, Phoenix, Arizona, in Sacramento, California, wherever we could actually have boots on the ground. All right. Good talk.
Sounds good.
All right. So coming up next, we've got two fantastic guests from WFG Title and Escrow. So come on back after the break. We're going to talk about title and escrow.
We'll be right back.